16.
17.
I will start here going this way.
I do apologize.
3.
4, 5,
6,
8,
10.
11. 13.
15.
16,
18,
19,
20,
22,
23.
24.
28.
29,
30,
31,
So, 28,
28 is a multiple.
So, we'll start from you going this way. So let's start. 1,
1.
2,
3,
4,
come here.
8.
9,
10,
11,
15.
16,
18,
19,
20,
22,
24. 23.
24.
hakuna.
27.
We'll do one more round and we'll come up later. So we'll start with the gentleman here going this way.
1,
2,
3.
4.
8.
9,
10,
11,
12,
13,
15.
16. 19.
20.
22,
23,
25, 24,
25,
26,
28. 29.
30. 32.
33.
34,
36,
38,
39,
40,
40. 41.
43. 46. 45. Oh my word.
5,
46.
48,
50,
Thank you. Thank you. Let's appreciate them once more. Do you realize we are a whole room of grown-ups clapping for grown-ups who counted 1 to 50? It is such an achievement. People who have come for a financial event, 1 to 50. And later on, I'm going to get a different group to count for us, 1 to 10, but in a different format. We'll have a new formula for that one. Once again, welcome to this event. I'd like to invite the Enwealth Financial Services CEO, Simon Wafuba, to come and give us his opening remarks, as he also invites the chairman. And as Simon comes in, Simon, you know, this has been off the radar, so to speak. We've not had a conversation for a long time, understandably, like we said, because of COVID. I think what would be good, just as you know, a scene setter, as you get into your presentation or your remarks, how has Enwealth managed to, you know, weather the COVID storm? You paid out monies, etc., and you know you're still able to host us at the Radisson. Karibu.
Thank you, Dan. Dan, we are also going to call you to count for us a lot, 1 to 100. Good morning, everyone. First and foremost, we thank God we are alive. That's a huge miracle, isn't it? Yeah, look at your neighbor and say, I'm here, I'm alive. You have weathered COVID. That's a huge one, isn't it? And so it's actually worthy to note that it's not very obvious that you can wake up and be alive and breathe. And so it's important to thank God for that. Number 2 is to acknowledge our board chair, Mr. Peter Wayaki, who is with us this morning. and he's going to speak to us in a short while. I also want to acknowledge the presence of the representative of the Retirement Benefits Authority, Dr. Shem. We acknowledge your coming, and we know that you're going to be on the panel. And thank you for also gracing this occasion, Catherine, the CEO of APA Life. And thank you for Naomi from Strathmore, and also the Institute of Human Resource Management. We also acknowledge APTAC, Mr. Mwangangi. He is already, maybe people need to see you. Mr. Mwangangi, you can just stand and wave at us. Yes. You know that slogan is a political slogan. Someone might ask you to be a running mate, isn't it? When you do like this, Mr. Mwangangi, for those of us who are former KANU members, a very good morning to all present, our customers, our staff, our partners. I take this chance to welcome you to the 7th edition of the Enwealth Conversation. Enwealth organizes these events. We had taken a break because of COVID, but we are grateful that we are back again to make this physical. We do periodic research in the space of social security in partnership with the Institute of Human Resource Management and also Strathmore University. We unveil these results of the research through a breakfast like we have today and have a conversation. Growing up back in the village, much of policy decisions at the family level were actually dealt with after having a conversation, after having a meal, and also having a conversation. I think it goes much more, information is much more deeply assimilated to that. We trust that this event will act as a platform for stakeholders to reflect and address some of these challenges that are affecting our social security space, and that the research will be impactful in encouraging the quality of savings culture as we commit to equipping individuals and institutions in line with our vision as Enwealth to secure our customers a lifetime of financial well-being and dignity. In conclusion, I would like to thank each one of you for making time to come. We thank you for your loyalty to Enwealth and even the unwavering commitment to support and work with us. To date, we are holding a portfolio of 85 billion in 3 countries, in Kenya, Uganda, Mauritius. We strongly cherish our value system of innovation, of trust, and in terms of also teamwork to deliver our innovative services to our customers. Ladies and gentlemen, in the near future, Enwealth will also be bringing to you new products that are going to also help you save in the short term over and above your pension savings that you have entrusted with us. In the near future, we'll be sending you communication to that effect. As Dan had asked, I want also to comment that COVID was a very difficult time. I had calls from our customers, some of them reaching out to me and asking, Simon, I am headed to the village. My wife has refused in the city. So what do I do? I have no job. Those are some of the services of pension scheme administration. The core reason is the wife is asking very fundamental questions. When we are going home, I don't want to go and sleep in your brother's house. Just as basic as that. In response to that, we saw the necessity. Now we have a housing solution. Just in case another wave happens and you have lost your job, you have to travel up country. Through our housing unit, using your savings with pension with us, We can be able to help you develop a house either here or up country in partnership with banking institutions like CoBank, like Stanbic Bank, like HF, and a number of other financial services. So whether you want to have a home here in Nairobi or up country, we now have a solution. We also got other concerns around healthcare, and we also want to let you know that we have a healthcare product called Anaya up to age 90, so that you can have a health cover at retirement, so that you can enjoy your retirement life. We have many more products that can help you secure a lifetime of financial well-being and dignity, and we do request that you can reach out to any of our team members at the desk there, or pick our contacts, reach out, schedule an appointment. We'll be happy to attend to you. Let me also just make mention that during COVID, we paid out around 7 billion, but the institution in terms of our portfolio, we still grew by about 20%. Through the financial literacy programs guided by research content, through this forum, we're able to actually communicate effectively to our customers to see the necessity to continue saving for retirement. And actually that is my parting quote, that when you remain loyal to the vision provides. Let me repeat that. When you remain loyal to the vision provides. And allow me to unpack that. So if your vision is headed to Nakuru and you get a traffic jam, you stay the course. And so COVID may have slowed us down, but you had a vision of a dignified retirement life, stay the course. You may step down in terms of your contributions, your savings, but after a while, you don't stop it. You keep going. Most people during COVID ideally stopped. They changed, they filed away their dreams, but I want to encourage you that keep dreaming. COVID or no COVID season, your dream is still valid. And so God bless you, and at this point, allow me to welcome our board chair, Mr. Peter Wayaki. Let's give him a round of applause as he comes.
Thank you, Simon. Good morning, distinguished ladies and gentlemen. I want to welcome you to the 7th edition of Enwealth Conversations. And I'll read the speech very briefly, a very short speech. I'm very pleased to be here today to share the conversations with you and to be part of it. I'd like to appreciate you for taking time out of your, no doubt, and I'm sure, busy schedules to grace this event. Indeed, I do this on behalf of the rest of our board, most of whom would have wanted to be here physically, but a number of whom will be following us online. They are very, very keen to be participants in this conversation. Within the 11 years Enwealth has been in operation, we have registered tremendous growth, including during the COVID period, currently providing services to more than 120 corporate clients with over $850 million in asset under administration. These figures are on a growth trajectory. Enwealth has adopted a unique approach by providing customer-centric and innovative solutions in social security financial services through research. And we have, I believe, verily earned our position as a trendsetter in the sector. Enwealth Financial Services today impacts over 80,000 lives in more than 12 African countries, and we are continuing to grow. The trust and confidence of our valued stakeholders, including you who are present here today and others who are following us online, have been the vital fuel in our unstoppable and unstopping journey of steady growth and improvement for a better tomorrow. I want to thank each one of you, our clients and customers, employees, partners, shareholders, and the community at large for your continued support. One of the customer-centric and innovative solutions.
It is a result of a collaborative research partnership between Enwealth Financial Services, Strathmore University, and the Institute of Human Resource Management. The research aims at utilizing existing resources to provide authentic research information for the retirement benefits industry and to inform policy formulation as well as impact positively the journey towards financial of us will be being told how we behave. It is our trust and expectation that these conversations will continue, as the previous ones have done, to bridge the often talked about but little done about gulf between research findings and the implementation for which Africa is sadly famous. I look forward to an engaging session that will indeed get us closer to Enwealth's vision of a lifetime of financial well-being and dignity. Asanteni sana, and God bless you.
Thank you very much.
The chairman said, "Good morning, distinguished ladies and gentlemen." He said, "Good morning. You know you're distinguished." Like it's a good thing. Keep the confidence going. And I almost said Pastor Simon. He was just short of doing an altar call. Thank you very much for that, Simon, as well. At this point, I'd like to invite Mohammed Khalid, who is the Senior Investment Manager of Gen Africa Asset Managers, to give us the economic outlook and industry commentary as we continue to just get better context of the conversation today. Yes, let's appreciate him. Aside from his paid for crowd, he has a rented crowd there, but let's all appreciate him.
Morning, ladies and gentlemen. I'm Mohammed Abdi. I'm a senior investment manager with Gen Africa. Glad to be with you today. So I'll take all of about 10 minutes just to walk you through the economic and industry commentary. So this is the challenge I always have when I come to the podium. There is no enough. Okay, can you hear me clearly? Great. So in terms of really the lay of the land, yeah, as that comes up, we're going to very briefly just go through a number of macro sort of indicators just to give a sense of where we've come from, just potentially where we're going. We are in a fairly challenging time in terms of the economic cycle, and I'm sure you all have a lot of questions lingering in terms of your mind. So we're going to go through the GDP. I just have an idea in terms of where we are in terms of the economic growth cycle. Inflation is sort of one of the key areas where we are seeing significant dislocation. Interest rates we've seen over the last 12 months really picking up in terms of pace, in terms of spread. The currency, I'm sure that's what we really hold quite close to our heart in terms of when you look at how that has moved over the last 6 months or so. And then we'll also have just a view in terms of how the markets have performed over the last few months. So generally, allow me just to step down so that we can move together. Generally, when you look at the GDP, what that basically tells you is that we've come off a very strong momentum in terms of the last, you'll say, about 9 years. So all the way from 2010, almost 10 years. We went through 2020. I think we're all aware what happened in 2020, the level of macro challenges we had, especially off the back of COVID, the containment measures that affected mobility, economic activities. So the economy contracted by about 0.3%. Overall, we've come off that particular low base. And you can see in 2021, a very strong bounce back off the back of the service sector. You remember schools had closed, a lot of transport, accommodation. So all that came under a lot of pressure. But overall, if you to look at now 2022, we are expecting that we are getting into more of a normalized environment. So 2022 is going to be a year of two halves. Between January and around July, you almost get the sense that we are likely to sort of bounce back in terms of recovery, in terms of momentum, at a fairly softer pace. But as we're getting into the second half of 2022, with the elections lingering, and we have seen the first half of 2022, the issues around the geopolitical issues globally, and the impact that has had in terms of the economy, especially from an inflation perspective, we've seen that has really, created quite a bit of pressure in terms of the economic growth projection. So overall, if you to look at the numbers that are coming from Treasury, if you look at the numbers that are coming from World Bank, IMF, that number is looking somewhere between 5 and 6%. But we think that overall, that number will likely come in much lower, at around 4.8%. Because we do expect potentially a more dampening impact coming off the election event, as well as the global secondary impacts, especially from the fuel prices picking up significantly, as well as really the inflationary costs that brings with it. If you to look at the inflation trajectory over the last so many years, what you'll see there in terms of the red line, that really represents transport inflation. Now, if you to look at the transport inflation, if you to remember the COVID period, the global oil prices had gone as low as $20 per barrel. That has really bounced back very significantly. Right now, we are trading somewhere in the range of around $110, $115 per barrel. That's why you're seeing your pump prices really spike up. And, from the note from Treasury indicating that, pump prices are likely to trade much lower, much higher actually. If it were not for the subsidy, probably the petrol prices will be somewhere in the range of around 184. So if you to look at the trajectory we are seeing there in terms of transport inflation off the back of, that particular shift, this is likely to still trend up. The average transport cost inflation is somewhere in the range of around 7.1%. And some of you will ask really why 7.1% when overall we've seen significant increases. Really, when you come to the inflation calculation, basically we're looking at the CPI, which is the consumer price index, which is a basket of all goods and services. So if you look at it over a 12 months period, we are operating off a very high base, and that's why you're seeing that 7.1%. But if you really look clearly at the trend, what you'll see that really stands out is really food inflation, which is the green sort of green line here. And what basically that tells you is that in 2021, one of the sectors that really contracted or really didn't do very well is agriculture. Remember, agriculture is around 20-25% thereabouts in terms of contribution to GDP. With the drier weather conditions, the fact that rainfall was not well distributed, then we did have a supply shock in terms of food productivity. So by implication, we are seeing that lag impact coming through in terms of food inflation. But overall, the main drivers of really the current inflation trajectory is really, one, the weaker currency. With the currency continue to weaken, that hits your transport through oil prices. We've also seen, off the back of the geopolitical issues in Eastern Europe, the impact that has had in terms of global supply chain challenges. You talk of fertilizer, you talk of wheat prices, you talk of other inflationary adjustments that are happening at a global level. The dollar is strengthening globally. The US Federal Reserve has increased interest rates very significantly over the last few months, and that basically is creating quite a bit of flight to safety. So a lot of investors who had invested in frontier markets, emerging markets, are now selling off assets on those markets and going back to the dollar. So by implication, that creates another pressure point in terms of the inflation trajectory. So generally, if you to look at the trend here, we are likely to test much higher levels. And that's why you saw CBK in the recent monetary policy statement increase interest rate by about 0.5. And our view is that we do expect they will continue with that tightening policy over the next couple of sittings. In terms of the interest rate environment, looking quite a bit of volatility if you to look at it on from 2015. Apologies for the graph here, and if this is 2015, this is 2016, and so forth. So if we to now really look at where we are, you realize that we are coming on the interest rate side. These are the short-term rates. Remember when we had COVID, what really happened to the markets? We did have a lot of liquidity. We had a significant stimulus coming from Treasury, from the government. Banks stopped lending, and by implication, it created a lot of liquidity in the system. So taking that into account, and now coming into 2021, when we saw very significant recovery in terms of the economy, banks started to lend, meaning that the level of liquidity in the system now was starting to come off. At the same time, when you look at the fiscal policy stance in terms of the domestic borrowing, that actually increased significantly by between 150 to 200 billion in terms of the domestic borrowing. So the pressure points, especially on the interest rate side, are really driven by demand and supply. When the government is increasing their fiscal deficits, or rather really domestic borrowing, by implication, that has an impact in terms of the short-term rates as well as the long-term rates. And you can see that happening from July 2021, and that particular trend has maintained. And you can see the spreads between the 91-day, 182-day, and the 364-day maintained at around 1%. Overall, we still do expect that this will still be the trend going forward. Remember, as a country, we're sitting off significant debt. So if you to look at our fiscal position going forward, unless we have very significant consolidation in terms of the expenditure program, which is again what the government is trying to do, that will likely have an impact going forward in terms of the trajectory there. In terms of the interest rates on the long end, in terms of the bond, the yield curve really, what really affects the bond portfolios. Overall, if you to look at the red curve there, that is June 2021. And if you to compare it with the green one there, that is June 2022. So over the last 12 months, you can see a very significant spread between 1 year and between 2021 and 2022. And overall, that spread has continued really picking up quite significantly if you to compare it to 2021. Again, the same situation happening here in terms of the level of government borrowing in the market and the issuance of aggressively, especially on the long end. In terms of the currency year on year, if you look at 2020, 2021, we saw that weakness coming through, about 3%. We've seen year to date the currency really taking more of a hit. I think as a trading yesterday, we closed at around 117.4. Year to date, the currency is down about 4% or thereabouts. And the main reason is really around what's happening in terms of import demand. Increased import demand has an implication in terms of how much we pay for our imports. Oil prices have gone up significantly. There is the global supply chain disruptions. We are now coming off COVID. There was a program where there was sort of a pause in terms of debt service, especially foreign debt service. We are back to servicing debt, and basically that is creating quite a bit of pressure as well on our forex reserve position. And then we also talked about the dollar strengthening globally. So all this is creating quite a bit of pressure. I'd like to highlight that really, if you to look at the Kenyan currency, you really look at it in the context of other regional currencies as well as frontier market currencies, as well as emerging market currencies. All those currencies, in terms of the ballpark, are all weakening, and the Kenyan currency is somewhere in the middle, sort of a median in terms of the level of weakness coming through. So from CBK, when you look at their statements, they sound quite comfortable so long as there is no significant volatility on the currency. And when you look at their policy stance, the increase of interest rates by about 0.5% was largely driven by the need to try and contain inflation. They need to start supporting the currency. As I close, I just shared here the performance of the markets, both the offshore markets. These are the equity markets globally, as well as the Nairobi Securities Exchange. And you can see year to date, the markets are not doing very well. The Nairobi Securities Exchange is down about 26%. The global markets are down much lower, about 31.6%. And the main reason is really due to really what's happening, what we've just talked about. There's a lot of risk premium attached now to equities. And by implication, we're seeing a significant shift in terms of global portfolio flows, more moving from emerging frontier markets into the US or more developed markets. And even into the more developed markets, we're seeing a little bit more shift into cash and sort of very short-term instruments. Our view here is we do expect that this trend is likely to continue so long as we have the Federal Reserve increasing interest rates, dollar globally increasing, and the situation in Eastern Europe, that is likely to really be something we are likely to see going into the next half of this 2022. So overall, we do expect a negative year in terms of the equity markets, both locally and globally. I think this basically I've already talked about it, is basically, again, the outlook really around the key macros I've just talked about. And I think I'll stop at that and take it back to MC.
Thank you very much, Mohammed, and quite some insightful stuff there, some of which we can pick up when we get into the panel discussion. I would like to now call Bansi Kaleli to come and introduce us to the Enwealth conversations. She didn't hire her own crowd.
Thank you.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Yeah, I'm quite sad I didn't have as many fans as Mohammed did. But I hope after this presentation, you'll be more excited, isn't it? My name is Bansi Kaleli. I work at Enwealth Financial Services. I lead business development. And we are very grateful that you took the time to come and join us this morning. So I'll give us a brief overview of really what Enwealth Conversation is. Some of us just probably stumbled upon the invite on WhatsApp or online, and you've chosen to join us, so thanks for that. But before I do that, we've had a few legal changes that affect the pension industry, and being an administrator, we wanted to just give an overview of some of the changes that have happened in the recent past, that being the last 1 or 2 years. and what we've done about it. So as you may be aware, we had the preservation of benefits that meant that people who leave their employer or who resign before the age of 50 can only access 50% of the accumulated benefits. What we've done about that, we've educated our trustees and members and made amendments to the trustee and rules, and that is something you should consider for your schemes if you haven't done it yet. Then there was the issue of the post-retirement medical fund. We've done extensive training around this as well. We also set up our own fund, Anaya Post-Retirement Healthcare Fund. Our team at the reception will be happy to share more about that, where members can now start saving. You can plug in and members can start saving for their medical needs in retirement when they're still working. We had the 2020 mortgage regulations. This is one of those that really excited us. So we got a team, set up a mortgage department, and what we are doing for our clients, we are supporting you throughout the whole setup process. So we are amending your trust in and rules. We are conducting member education. We are giving you the process flow documents required even to access the benefits. And just the cherry on top, we are connecting you with the different service providers. So if you need a bank to supplement your 40%, if you need contractors, surveyors, lawyers, etc., we are supporting you on that. Then we had the registration of corporate trustee. So we are currently waiting for guidance from the authority, and we are ready to do that as and when it's provided. There was the issue of related service providers. Those of you who are trustees might know that, say, if you had one entity serving two roles, say the custodian and corporate trustee, or related entities, then you needed to change that. So we've been offering advisory services to our clients around that. Some of us during the COVID era, we couldn't submit our audited accounts on time. So we've informed and educated boards around this, and also done it within the stipulated 3 months provided by RBA. Then the last one was that trustees may appoint KRA to act on their behalf as an agent to assist in recovery of unremitted contributions. So we've educated and informed trustees around this. Very recently, in April, there was a legal notice that is around gosh, I've lost my train of thought, sorry. So there was a legal notice around how fast we need to submit our audited accounts and declaration of net returns. So we will be communicating that to you in the near future. Now, on to what brought us here today. Enwealth Conversations is a partnership between Enwealth Financial Services, Strathmore University, and the Institute of Human Resource Management. And what we want to do is have transformational, thought-provoking, enlightening conversations. That's it, around social security services. And I'll take you through an overview of just some of the studies we've done. And these ones, interestingly, link to what we are going to be talking about today. So the first study is on retirement confidence. So a while back we asked, why are people at the point of retirement refusing to retire? So people are changing their dates of birth. Others are, others are asking for extensions. And we've heard of stories of, people who wake up and go to town and, dilly-dally the whole day because they just want to stay at home. So we were asking, why is that so? And we found that only 1 in 7 Kenyans were well prepared for retirement. So this room has around close to 200 people. So just do the math. On your table, you're around 7. So look around, only one of you will have money in a few years, yeah? And the income replacement is at around 55% as opposed to 75% recommended. Then after that, we now talk to these people who've retired. We're like, so how's retirement for you? What's happening? How are you surviving, etc.? So we found that people who've retired still have to continue working. Our pension isn't enough, as we've already established. So people are getting into agribusiness, either going back to formal employment or getting rentals to supplement their monthly income. So we were like, okay, why are you going back to work? What is it that is stressing you? And the number one cause of stress in retirement is a medical cover, followed by reduced income. And I think we saw this very well during COVID. Everyone, was trying to take care of their health. We had a lot of harambes, etc., just trying to support people around this. And this tallies to a study, this now is a later study that was conducted by RBA in 2019, where they ask pensioners, so if you could do one thing differently, what would it be? And 79% say I'd increase my savings. And that's why it's very important for us to have this conversation today. Even with the challenges you're currently facing in the economy, it's an important conversation to have. So now, these people have saved all this money and they've retired. So we asked, so in the unfortunate event of death, yeah, who would you want to get your money? And we found that 84% of the respondents, 84% want their children to get their wealth, which is really good. In terms of whether men give their wives or their wives give their husbands, it was really almost equal. So the wives are doing pretty well. I think there's a lot of negative publicity around women and money, yeah? Because many people say that women don't share their money with their husbands. Lakini mali ya bwana ni yetu, lakini ya bibi ni yake. However, the study showed us, in fact, wives are also quite generous. Now, the interesting thing is we all want this money to go to the right people. However, only 21% of us have a will. And majority of us said we don't have a will because we don't know how to write it, or we don't have, the access to the expertise. And that is why at Enwealth we have a team of lawyers who can support you in case you need to do that. We also looked again at that money and we asked ourselves, are people not saving in pension schemes because they don't trust it? So we looked at conflict in retirement benefit schemes. And majority of you here are trustees. So this is probably why our members are, iffy about our schemes. So 40% of the people say that they experience a sense of conflict at the point of processing their benefits. However, to note that this 40%, majority of them were retrenched or fired. So probably the circumstances of exit add on to why they were not satisfied. Another interesting fact, it looks like people with a lot of money don't have conflict. Majority of the conflict, more than 40%, was for people who had less than 1 million or around 1 million shillings in their schemes. And from our experience, I'd want to assume it's because we thought the money was a lot. The thing with savings, you'd never check, yeah? And especially pension. It's deducted from your salary. Every month you get your pay slip, and you assume it's this big amount, yeah? So many of them had benefits of less than 1 million shillings. And they blame you, the trustees. Anyone who's had a challenge with their pension, 50% of them, so 1 in every 2, think it was the responsibility of the trustees, even before the HR was at only 10%. And then now we asked our members and trustees, so do you guys have a conflict resolution policy? Only 26% knew that they had one. And this is part of the good governance guidelines. So if you don't have one for your scheme, we'd be more than happy to support you through our legal to get it. And if you're our client and you're wondering what this is, please contact us. We will tell you what your conflict resolution policy is. Now, as I wind up, last year during COVID, we just wanted to find out how are people faring, especially the people who've left employment. We were sad to note that still the issue of income remains persistent. So still respondents need additional income and they have to get this through other sources, rental income being the #1 source. Then there was also an increase in expenses. People who have retired are having to spend their money on these elements, and the one that was leading was support to family members. So it seems that for those of us who we are investing in our children, amen, it seems the investment might not bear as much return as we'd hope, unfortunately. So we are having to support a lot of family members and social events. And then another very sad fact is that people who've retired are having to take loans, 35% of them, and their #1 source of loans is mobile applications. So we are all downloading the apps and getting our loans from the apps, followed by commercial banks. And that is why we wanted to look at how we can reverse this conversation through improving the saving culture. And with that, I wish to invite my colleague Francis, who will give us an overview of what this current study means, and then we'll get into the data. Thank you very much.
morning. I'd like for you to turn to your neighbor and ask them, do you save? Do you really save? So, so welcome to the 7th edition. The saving culture and investing dynamics of Kenyans. So currently, the World Bank has Africa at 17% in terms of saving. And so in terms of the saving culture, Africa stands at 17%. So we drilled down deeper to find out where does Kenya stand in all this. And interesting, Kenya stands at 12%, which is half, so the 17% is half of the average of low-income countries, which stand at 26% of the GDP. So currently, we have Macau as a country being the #1 country in terms of saving, which is at, sorry, can you see this? Okay. Yeah, Macau 64%. You see, one thing that we found interesting was that saving isn't really about the income you get. So you can have a low GDP as a country, but you still save more. So the percentage that you're pushing towards saving is what reflects this percentage here. So we have Republic of Congo at 61, which is a relatively small country. This is very interesting. The findings are in Investopedia, so you can have a look at that as well. And we also had a look at China. So China being a very fast-growing economy, we wanted to see, compare it to Kenya. Kenya being at a very special place, being a hub of business in Africa, we wanted to see how China and Kenya relate to that. So currently China stands at, I believe, 30% in terms of savings, so which is a really good percentage. When we looked at Uganda, they also performed better than us. Having a lower GDP than us, they also performed really well. And yeah, so I'm going to invite Naomi to have a touch on the findings. Then I'll come back, have a few conclusions and recommendations. Thank you.
Good morning, everyone. So there was a question, where is Macau? Did anyone find out where Macau is? No, the country. So it's an administrative region of China. So I think it's a region like Hong Kong. The other interesting thing was the Democratic Republic of Congo. It's impressive, yeah? Anyway, maybe it's because they have more minerals, I don't know. Okay. So my name is Naomi Memwangi. I'm a lecturer in Strathmore University, and we collaborate in Enwealth Conversations. I'm in business, but I'm interested in pensions and how people prepare for retirement. Also because as a HR professional, it's part of the things we have to think about as part of the employee benefits. So I hope to retire rich. So after doing all these studies, yeah, so saving and investment behavior among Kenyans, yeah? From a GDP perspective, when the citizens of a country save and invest, it also helps in the growth of the country. Imagine if as Kenyans who were saving, the government wouldn't have to take all these Euro bonds, yeah, that are very expensive. They would be borrowing money from the citizens. So it's actually a good thing that the citizens of a country actually save and invest in the instruments that are available for them. And also, we all know that it's true in employment, you have pension schemes, provident schemes that you can save in. But what about the people in the informal sector? Yeah? The people who are in the gig economy. Yeah, this is a whole sector, and these are people who really don't have a savings and investment mechanisms for the future. Yeah, and these are our people, these are our relatives. Yeah, and also from the other studies that we have seen, like the one on preparedness for retirement, people still don't have enough money by the time they are retiring. So this means that we need to save in addition to what we are doing already in order to be well prepared for retirement. So this study, this was the main aim, to identify the savings behavior, the saving and investments behavior across a sample of Kenyans. We were just commenting this would have been a very interesting study if we were able to conduct it in many more counties, with more people. Yeah, this would have given us more insights, but this is a beginning. So we sent out this questionnaire to about 813 people. A third of them responded, and we had 244 responses, which from a statistical perspective is not too bad, yeah? Okay, so this is what you found, yeah? The demographics, yeah? More than 87% of the respondents were between 25 and 54 years, which is good because this shows there are people who are still within their productive years. Yeah, they're either employed or running a business, so they're still within their productive years. Then 57% of the respondents were men, 43% were women. Then 75% were married or in partnerships, and 30% were single. We will see why whether you are single or married or in a partnership was important. Then the number of dependents, yeah, the respondents, about 41% of the people had 1 to 3 dependents. Another 36% had 4 to 6 dependents, and the people who had none was about 15%, and another 8% had above 7 dependents. So we can see more than 85% of the respondents have someone depending on them. And then the other question we asked was, what are you doing? Are you in employment or self-employment? 76% of the people were in employment, 22% of the people were in self-employment, and the difference, which was about 1%, were retired. Then of the 76% in employment, 64% of them had been in employment for more than 6 years. Well, 35% of the people had been, of the 22% in self-employment, had been in self-employment for 1 to 3 years. So these are people who are just beginning their journey in self-employment. Then we asked about in which sector are they in? You can see most of them were in banking and financial services, then education, manufacturing, government, hospitality. Yeah, so that is how the demographics looked like. Then the next question we asked, how much of your income goes into savings and investments? Yeah. Someone asked, do you save? Now I'm asking, what percentage of your income do you save? Yeah. Apart from the 5, 10, 15% that your employer says must go to your pension fund. Yeah. How much else do you save? So this was the outcome. Majority of the people save between 6 and 15% of their income. And then below 5%, 21% of the respondents. More than only 5% of the people save more than 30%. Yeah. And what are the reasons for savings? Yeah. The biggest reason was for big purchases or expenses. And here the description we had given was big purchases like land, houses, so that's what that means. And then the second one was retirement. And then the third reason was future unforeseen expenses. Another interesting one was travel and leisure, yeah? So we are really saving for, to also enjoy life a bit, yeah? Okay, it's good that we save for these things as opposed to taking loans, yeah, to travel, yeah? Okay, then we looked at the incomes levels versus the percentage saved, yeah? Okay, in each category, I would like you to pay attention to the highest bar, yeah? I don't know how clear that is, but if you look at the category of the people who are earning below 30,000, they pay, the highest percentage of people save about 6%, yeah? Then the category of people between 30 and 60,000, they save 6 to 15%. Then when you go to the next category, between 60 and 90,000, it's between 6 to 30%. Yeah, those two bars seem to be more or less the same. If you look at the people earning above 150,000, the last column to your left, they save about between 16 and 30%, yeah? So obviously this shows maybe there's some correlation between the amount of income earned and the percentage of savings. Okay, then we asked, where are people saving? Yeah? The two highest category and then there's chamas and table banking, bank savings, then all the other traditional channels. But if you look at number 5, pension as a personal initiative, yeah, you can see people save, yes, through the pension schemes that are set up by their current employer, but maybe they only do the minimum. And then we ask people, yeah, one of the questions we ask people, do you think the industry that you are in influences your level of savings? And they said yes. And this could be because of the awareness. If you are in the banking and financial sector, you are likely to be more aware about savings and investments, yeah? And then the other question we asked was, would you like to increase your level of savings? What do you think people said? People said? Yes. Yeah, people want to save more. Yeah, so then we asked, why aren't you saving more? Yeah, you can see people said, money is not enough, huh? We don't have enough funds. And I think with the economic condition, I mean, this is understandable, yeah? A packet of ugali flour suddenly increased to 200 bob the other day, isn't it? Of course, that will eat into the money that you would have saved, yeah? And then obligations, and we will see what these obligations are. And then 12% of the people are postponing to save in the future when they have more money. Yeah, when we get better jobs, when the employer increases our salaries, then we will save, yeah? Okay. And then we had some statements, and we were asking people, how do you generally view savings, or what is your attitude towards saving? Yeah? And most of the people said, yeah, if you look at this agree and the strongly agree bars, yeah, and you look at the highest vertical bars, many people were saying, I have always tried to save. So we try, yeah? Very important that we try. But if you look at the strongly agree and disagree, the strongest statements were, I spend money as soon as I get it without saving. Yeah? Meanwhile, we are trying to save, yeah? And then the second highest one was, I only save when I have a specific goal in mind. Yeah? So these three statements can help us see. So what can we do? We have the will and we want to save, but maybe we need to have goals. The problem is the goal, yeah? We need to have goals, and then maybe our saving behavior will be better. And then we asked about savings and investments behavior in the last 1 year. This is because we acknowledge the challenge of COVID and that everyone was feeling stretched. Yeah? And if you look at, once again, the strongly agree bars, yeah? People are saying they have saved money every month. Yeah? And for long-term goals. Yeah, but they have not, if you look at the strongly disagree bar, they have not increased their contributions towards a retirement, their retirement account. So maybe there's a shift, yeah, for short-term saving, yeah, to meet maybe unexpected expenditure because of all the shocks we experienced during the last 1 year. So maybe people are saving more for short-term needs. Okay, then you remember we had asked the question about dependence. And so we were asking people, so what are you spending money on? Yeah, this extended family and this dependence, what are you spending money on? Yeah, so day-to-day upkeep, school fees, medical expenses, those were the three top reasons. Yeah? And always, I think this is an African thing, yeah? When people at home call you and ask for money, you feel obligated to send, yeah? So you can see people they always send money home in case of emergencies, yeah? And they feel an obligation to support, yeah? Their extended family. Then the final question we asked was knowledge, yeah? And this is something that comes up in all the Enwealth conversations, yeah? It seems that there's a lack in financial literacy, and we can help people be more financially aware in terms of how they can save and invest better. So once again, I have enough knowledge on how to invest. Okay, majority of the people agreed with that. And I frequently read material about how and the importance of saving. But this one, I have used a financial advisor to make savings and investments decisions. That was more towards the disagree and the strongly disagree. Yeah, so those of us in this sector, what are we doing? Do we just sell the product without educating the people? Yeah, or do our customers know that they can come to us for financial advice? This is food for thought. Okay, so in summary, yeah, income and dependency levels, they have an influence on savings and investments levels. These seem to be the biggest factors that influence the savings and investments behavior. Kenyans on average save 6 to 15% of their income in SACCOs and pensions. I wonder if we should stop thinking of mandatory pension savings, money you put in your employer-backed pension scheme as saving, and now start thinking, okay, apart from this, what else? Yeah, I think we need to have a change in the way we look at this. And then, usually Kenyans save when they have a goal in mind. Yeah, and then the biggest barrier to savings and investments was mobile loan apps and how easily accessible mobile loans are. So thank you very much. With that, I come to the end of my presentation, and I call upon Frank to come and talk about the conclusions and recommendations. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Naomi. I think we can turn to our neighbor again and ask them, will you start to save? Yeah. So, interesting findings we had there. Thank you so much, Naomi, for that. And I think one that stood out for me was the one for the one that you just finished with on Kenyans save between 6 to 15%. And if, assuming what goes to pension is about, give or take 6 to 7.5%, that means you're saving close to 7.5%, which is not a lot. Yeah, so the rule of thumb when it comes to saving, basically 50% should go to our needs, 30% should go to our wants, and 20% to our savings. So the target is to hit 20%. There's the intention to save. Results indicate a strong intention to save. However, there are challenges that hinder actualization. There's the lack of enough funds. So let's say you're living from hand to mouth, your salary isn't enough. Maybe you're living above your means, slightly above, and so you're pushing it to the point where you're also borrowing, like we also saw from previous reports that showed that our retirees are actually borrowing a lot of money. There's also the need to support the extended family. I'm sure we all have a cousin somewhere, or some guys back at home, pump imevunjika, unaweza tuma kitu kidogo, and such things. Not that supporting our families is bad, but you also have to have in mind, how does this impact us? We need to take care of ourselves first before we take care of our family. And also availability of quick loans via mobile phones, which negatively affect savings behaviors. So back again to the previous study, which Bansi touched on, our retirees were really one source of debt was the mobile applications. They were really pushing towards that. And we need to have policies that can regulate this area to ensure that, I think also Naomi mentioned, offering financial advisory from these financial services. If you're going to offer a financial service, I believe it's important you also give advisory services to your client, so they're able to make a wise decision or an informed decision at that point. So 68% of the respondents who use mobile lending apps report that it has negatively affected their saving habits, because what this does gives you a false sense of having money while you don't really have money. It's debt. Availability of sources of funding is a positive factor that has been misused. Again, you need to know why you're borrowing. I think this goes to us personally. why are you borrowing? Do the math first before you put yourself in a position where the debt burden is too heavy. Yeah, I think I've covered on that. And also, what do people save for? So there's 6 to 15%. So average 24% of the respondents save for emergencies and big projects, as Naomi had mentioned. Basically, emergency projects, emergency kitty should be about 3 to 6 months of worth of expenses. Yeah, so black tax. Although black tax is a fairly new term, it is a reality lived by some Kenyans, especially those who hail from households with a resource deficit. Social capital and relatives become a survival mechanism. Also, findings show that majority of the respondents either send money in case of emergencies or feel obligated to send money home. Yeah, so at the national level, I think financial deepening basically means availing resources to all classes of life. So lower class, high class, middle income. So we want this to drive the formal access to finance, which will ultimately lead to saving mobilization and ultimately lead to economic growth, poverty reduction, and inequality decrease. I believe, like as my previous presenters had shared. So saving mobilization strategies can be used to improve the current saving culture by economic reform and financial sector liberalization, innovative saving products and technologies, risk and liquidity management, which is what I'd also mentioned before, having my train of thought, having these financial advisory services so you can inform the client before they make that decision on a personal level. And also prudential regulation and effective supervision. This goes for the mobile application, mobile loaning applications, where it's become a bit too much and the government needs to regulate that a bit. So guys are not borrowing too much, and so now we can focus a bit more on saving. So policies and recommendations. Government to carry out financial sector reforms by enhancing the environment for private savings and investment. So this would look something like what we currently have. I think the incentives, tax incentives for guys who are saving towards the housing. So if you want to purchase a home and you're saving towards that, there's a tax incentive. Also create smart consumers of financial services through financial education. Again, to what I'd said earlier, financial advisory services, and also as the private sector, really pushing towards educating people and ensuring we don't just have products that benefit us, because of course that's the goal, but also that benefit the client. I think I'd touched on point number 3. Number 4, pursuing an enhanced rather than a restrictive legislation governing promoters and providers of financial services, especially those who offer services to low-income households. So SACCOs, to give them incentives, give them at least some nice room to play around when it comes to taxes. Number 5, formalization of merry-go-round and table banking systems. So I don't know if we would allow this, because I'm also in a chama. And initially, chamas used to be for ladies. Then we slowly started taking them up as men. So I don't know if we can find ways that where we can create a synergy between the formal and the informal, so we are not also scared of having our chama money maybe taxes or something of the sort, trying to avoid such things. So maybe we can have discussions on that to create policies that would benefit both sectors, the informal, which is the chamas, and also now banks and the rest. So instead of focusing on lending, government should offer more support to saving institutions with increased monitoring, regulation, and control. So most people know Kenya as a country where we like borrowing. We have been known as loan rangers. So I think we need to start focusing on saving. We need to have products and policies that push us towards saving more than borrowing. So the key points of the study or the findings that came out were saving and spending patterns, consumerist economy, financial literacy, which my partner from Strathmore, Naomi, mentioned. There's also black tax. I think we need to just plan a bit more around it. Because I mean, they are our family, but we need to take care of ourselves first before we take care of them. So we need to have a way around it where it's not a burden, but it's an expense that's accounted for. Negative effect of mobile lending apps. And finally, couple savings vis-a-vis single saving. So I don't know if the recommendation is to get married if you're single, but yeah. So those were the findings. So I think you can scan the QR to get the report. I hope it's working. Please confirm. So to get the final report, it's working? Okay, thank you. So the quote of the day, unless this was from the Nation, unless you win the lottery, marry into a wealthy family, or rob a bank, the surest way to financial security entails consistently saving a portion of your income and perhaps investing thereafter. So thank you. To the QR code. Okay. I guess I'll leave it at that and have Dan continue. Thank you. It's been a pleasure.
Thank you very much. And it's good to see the use of technology in such a way. In the event that you may be having a pinhole camera, have no fear. Enwealth will send the link to you on email, which you can access on your pinhole phone, which is okay. Phones are for communication. If you want a camera, buy a camera. All right? But either way, in case I've been able to do it, I was probably fortunate because I was close by. In case you've not gotten it, you shall get it on email. All right? Thank you very much for those findings and for the brilliant presentation. And some things I just noted were like when Naomi was presenting about people have thought about it, but they don't actually save. When the Bible says the spirit is willing, but the flesh is weak. I think it also applies to some saving culture. Then when you talk about the pensions being only the ones that are, remitted through your employer, Kenyans, we know how to defend ourselves. We'll say, si bado ni pesa yangu. It is still my money. But anyway, we'll be getting into that as we get into our panel session. And at this point, I'd like to invite my panelists to come and join us up here. We have Catherine Karemi, who's the Chief Executive Officer of APA Life Assurance Company, Karibu. We have Naomi Mwangi, who was here before, the lecturer at Strathmore University. It's free seating. We have Dr. Shem Ouma, Chief Manager and Head of Research and Strategy at the Retirement Benefits Authority. We have Catherine Mwangi, who's a council member of the IHRM, Institute of Human Resource Management. Elizabeth Irongo, General Manager, Business Development and Client Relations at ICA Lion Asset Management. We have Mohammed Khalid, who was here before and still is the Senior Investment Manager, Gen Africa Asset Managers. And we have Albanas Mudhoka, Manager, Pension Administration and Consulting at Enwealth Financial Services. I'll just unplug this for now. Right, welcome, ladies and gentlemen. I'll be honest, for this financial sector panels, it's not as often you'll get as many women. So it's really encouraging to see this. Let's appreciate this. It's something to celebrate. So a number of interesting things have been brought up during the presentation here. And, we've seen a number of interesting findings that have come from this survey, which we are going to help unpack a bit more just to get better context. And at a point, we shall open up the conversation to the floor so that in case you'll have any questions to the panelists, you will do so, but that will be a bit later. Let me begin with Naomi, and it's something that also Bansi mentioned. One of the recommendations that has been made is we recommend undertaking joint financial planning with spouses, as this improves on the quality of savings and investment decisions made. This brings to the question what Bansi does. So what does that make of this is not the women saying, what is mine, what is yours is ours. But we're seeing it's a very significant percentage of those who plan together. So is it just a thing that is not backed by data? It's nice for banter, it's nice for social media, but we don't have the actual situation on the ground. We're finding a lot of couples planning together.
Okay.
Yeah, it's on.
It's on?
Yeah.
Okay. That's quite an interesting question because when you have informal discussions with people, these people don't want to seem to plan together. Yeah, they want to have their money separately. But from this research, a number of respondents said yes, they'll be interested in doing couples planning. Yeah, because this shows that people want to have a common goal, yeah, to achieve financial goals together. Yeah, maybe it's a cultural thing that when you're having informal conversations, you don't want to say it, but deep down, they want to do it. In fact, research in other places, like in America, has shown that couples who plan together even stay together. Yeah, they are likely to stay married together. Yeah, so I think this is a challenge that we can take up and stop this fallacy of what is mine, and yours is yours, yeah, because it makes sense to plan together and to have financial goals together.
Okay, thank you very much. And I want to bring in Catherine Karimi, who's the CEO of APA Life Assurance Company. And when we talk about saving among the youth, one of the things that was found is that some link their struggles to save with non-existing youth-friendly saving platforms. Do you feel this is true in terms of, do you have products that you feel like for yourselves as APA would, or just even as an industry, you've kind of tried to tailor-make to pull in the youth to encourage them to save, or what is your comment on that finding?
Thank you.
Yes, on.
Yeah, I would say that
partly that concern is true, but there are, however, avenues, products, solutions that are available in the market. At APA, we do have, not to the extent that we would have wished, but we are putting a lot of investment, especially in trying to refocus our product to fit the younger generation, and also to use innovation and digital a lot, because we know that is an avenue where we can reach the youth more. So the industry, not only the insurance industry, even the entire financial sector, there has been acceleration, I would say, in the past few years on coming up with solutions that really are tapping into the youth and giving the youth avenues for saving. We have the apps, we have the USSDs, and I'm very sure many of us are still cracking and spending a lot of time and investments in making sure that we develop more and give those solutions and avenues. Mr. Wafubo mentioned very soon they're coming up with something. Yeah, as APA, we also have invested in a whole digital factory that is actually doing research on the youth and trying to find out how can we reach the youth. How can we open up more to the younger generation? When you look at the demographics, we know that the median age for Kenya is less than 20. What does that tell us? Yeah, it tells us the current consumer of our products, and the emerging consumer of our product is a young generation, and we can't ignore them. And what we are doing is also use the same young generation to develop solutions for the young generation. In that space, myself, I would seem very old if I try to even think of how to come up with a solution for the young generation. So I would say, as much as it would look like it's not opened a lot, there is a lot going on below the line in terms of investments and research, development, to make sure that we open up the market and have avenues for the young generation to save.
All right, thank you very much. And I want to stay on that line of discussion, and which I will invite as many of you as can respond to this, because it has to do with this industry we're in. Do we feel that this, financial services sector is still very heavy with jargon, that now the common mwananchi, as we refer to them, may not be as receptive because they don't fully understand all these nice things that you have to offer? You tell me if you put this much, but a lot of big words are used there, which were only possibly taught to people who studied business to a very high level. Those who dropped, if they had an option to drop mathematics, would have dropped it. But we still want them to be part of this. So do you feel that is one of the challenges? Do you think it's a realistic challenge? And so I'll actually begin from the far end there, just to comment on the same. Do you feel that's something that is a contributor?
All right, thank you, Mwangi. And I think that is really a very valid point, that sometimes the financial sector has remained very much in the jargon world, and we lose our people. It sort of becomes a preserve, and one of the things that we must do is we must unmask ourselves and become approachable, become centric to the audience, and give them products that they can understand. And I can attest to this because I'm in business development. We meet many people who say, I don't understand anything you have said. What was all that? And even at our table, that came up when Mohammed finished, like, so much jargon. So you really hit it on the head, and I think it's a good time for us to rethink about how we bring out these products, financial products and financial knowledge, in a way that majority of the people can understand without intimidating them.
All right. Yes, you wanted,
Yeah, I totally agree with that statement. A lot of jargon. And also we have to think about accessibility. And I think what Catherine has said about being innovative and finding ways to reach the customers in an easy way, yeah, could unlock this potential for savings and investments among the young people.
All right. Oh, let's go to him, then we'll come to you. Yeah.
All right, thank you. And I do fully agree with that particular statement. For me, just to note the progress that we are making as the players in this particular sector is looking at the accessibility of this particular information. Is nowadays, every day you wake up in the morning, there is someone talking about investment in the social media. You look at Twitter, you look at Instagram and all that. And looking at currently the mobile connectivity as well as the internet is in a way helping to be able to make this particular information more accessible, more easy to understand, and especially our young people. And are coming up with more innovative ways for these young people to be able to invest in. So I think there is a bit of progress that is happening from the sector in terms of trying to have that information available.
Okay, I'll let the regulator speak, then you can come to HR.
Thank you very much. And yes, that observation is true. It's not only being observed now, it has been observed in the past. At the Financial Sector Regulators Forum, we've picked this one up. And actually, we've tried to build on the literacy levels to be upscaled. And it doesn't only speak to those who have done relevant subjects in the financial sector. It goes all the way up. So financial literacy is real, even up to the level of a professorship, because you find that there are people making bad savings and bad investment decisions. And then they become a liability to society when they would have actually really provided for themselves. So yes, we noted that, and we've worked with the Kenya Institute for Curriculum Development to develop a curriculum that is infused into various levels of learning, so that right from nursery school through secondary, through tertiary, and even after the university, people can actually be interacting with these terminologies. And when they understand them, they are able then to make better savings and better investment decisions for themselves. Let me stop there.
All right, thank you. You had something to say, Catherine?
Yeah, thank you.
Yes, on.
Mine is to confirm that the statement is true. And some of the things that we have observed from a HR point of view is that when you go to the informal sector and you really want to bring awareness in terms of the personal financial management, the way you dress by itself, it will intimidate them. So we need to be careful when we are approaching them, because we had an awareness for the motorbike group. So the very first time that we approached them, we could not even get a quorum because of the way we were dressed. So we told them that we are HR people and we want to teach them on how they can be able to form a chama. Then they will be contributing monthly. So the fact remains that we managed to interact with a few. We decided to give them an appointment, and that second time, we actually went with jeans and rubber shoes and hats with ourselves, and we managed to get a quorum of about 50 people. Today, this morning, as I'm talking to you, the chama is on. They are contributing, and actually they are buying a plot in Kamuru. Thank you.
Oh, wow, thank you. Let's appreciate that. We have a case study and impact. Mohammed, you have been mentioned adversely. I'm just kidding. Maybe just your comment in terms of how do you feel the communication should be, just to ensure that, all this good data you've given us, these good findings are, communicated beyond the people in this room, etc.
Yeah, thank you very much. I think I'll just borrow the comment that I just had from my colleague. I think a lot has to do with our education system, right up from your early stage. And I don't know to what extent the current education system, the CBC system, does inculcate financial literacy. I'll tell you all the way from back in the day, going through school, the closest I came to financial literacy or information was probably towards the end of your high school days and such things. So I think at the core of it is really the education system. How can we inculcate that at a pretty early stage? and really, nurture the young kids as they get into adulthood, as they get into employment. You need to realize that you need to make those decisions. Your first job, you need to start saving from your first job, especially on the retirement side. And you'll realize that, a lot of, people really don't have that financial literacy. And if you to look at the information that again is disseminated in the social media and the platforms, you realize that again we need to make it a little bit more palatable. Some of it is quite technical, and we need to really talk to the guy on the street in terms of how we can cut it back to that level. A lot of the people on the street really now realize the impact of the economic policy that the government has taken over the last 9 years and the impact it's having on them. So that is a stage we can pick up from. Thank you.
All right, thank you. And I actually asked that because as a business journalist, there are times I would read the business news and at the end I usually say business is done and so am I. And so some people used to tell, there's a time I didn't say that when I was closing the bulletin. I was told, get off here, we are running short of time. So I said, that's it for business, good night. And I got about 3 text messages from guys saying, imagine I don't understand the NSE 20 share index. I just usually wait for that one thing. And today you denied me. You've wasted my time. I was waiting just for that one thing. So there is a conversation to be had across, right from the industry even to us who communicate the same to the public. And something that, Mohammed has also raised, which had been raised before, is that the place we are in right now in terms of the economy is very difficult. And so when you tell somebody save, for some that sounds like one day, nikiomoka, as they'd say, So how do we still encourage people to save when they barely have enough to put on the table? I'll leave that to whoever feels they will take it. Who will take that one? How do you encourage people to save when they, because if you don't volunteer yourself, I'll volunteer you. But I think
I can go first.
Yeah, so.
One of the ways is basically what we've just talked about, more civic education, financial literacy. That is a start. But I think looking at where we are, looking at COVID was a very good, I don't want to say good so in quotes, it basically took us back in terms of the impact, a pandemic or the impact an economic shock can have on households in terms of your earnings, in terms of your incomes, and so forth. So you're always a paycheck away from disaster in terms of really how we plan our finances. So I think overall those learnings, going through all those learnings really help in terms of taking back people just to appreciate that now we really need to think, we need to do a 360 change in terms of how we really look at our finances. And unfortunately, the cost of living is high, so most of them will tell you, I'm unable really to put something aside because of really the disposable income coming under a lot of pressure. But ultimately, I think the most important thing is, to share such information, the research that has been done by Enwealth and Strathmore on the media platforms, and just to really bounce off those ideas to the public, really.
All right, thank you. I think Catherine had something.
Yes. I would say just like what we usually do is to encourage people to start small. Start from whatever level you can be or you can be able to save. And also to show the power of compound interest. Because that small savings compounded over time, it builds up into a value, a big value that actually can be invested. So still, it goes down to the financial literacy, because even understanding how that small can compound to become a high wealth, for an individual, it requires the financial literacy. But we have to go boldly into it. I know as financial institutions or companies that are in the financial sector, we have a lot to do as far as that literacy is concerned. We can take advantage of the various mediums, the social media, forums like this, as we look at the policy levels, the government policy levels where we can influence that literacy, as many have said, from maybe the curriculum. I know RBA is putting in effort on that. Insurance Regulatory Authority is also working with curriculum development to also push how that financial literacy can be introduced from elementary levels in our school systems. And I think over time, if we focus and we show the power of building small and getting there, we can encourage more savings and hence build investments.
All right, thank you. Yes, we can have Daktari, then we can come to.
Let me just add something small to the contributions. And sorry, I want to take you back to theory a little bit. If you have been a student of economics or business, then you must have learned about a life cycle hypothesis of saving. It was brought up by Ando Modigliani, and he said that there are 3 levels of a lifestyle. So when you are still young, you are still building human capital up to a certain level. You can assume by the time you are age 21, probably almost leaving the university, you have been actually a net borrower. You have never been earning income. So you have been borrowing. So however much you would want to save, you don't have anything to save. And then you enter the working life, which I think is what the study sampled. I think between probably 21 to 55 or 60 there, those are workers. And therefore you are living, you are earning out of your capital that you built when you are building your human capital. So essentially the assumption is that you are earning more than you need, and therefore you need to save. I think when the MC asked a question, ask your neighbor, I don't know whether it was the MC, whether he or she is saving. I was sitting next to my good friend, who is also a learned friend, and his genuine answer was that he's not saving, he's living on his past savings. So beyond age 60, actually, probably you are not saving anything, but because during your working life you had managed to save something, you are living out of those savings. So that life cycle hypothesis tells us that when you are working or you are within the working age bracket, you should make saving part of your expenditure. Do not save what you have last after you have met all of your expenses. Let saving be part of your expenses. Actually, that should be the first thing that you spend on. Save. So we've been told in this particular study that you need to save 20% of your income. Can you put that one aside first before you start satisfying your needs and your wants? So make it part of your expenditure. But I agree that we have a challenge, particularly with the youth. You know, the youth have a concept that says YOLO, you only live once. So they really don't care what is coming tomorrow. But this is the group we are having challenges with encouraging them to save. And I think such interaction, such dialogue, we need to have them continuously so that we continuously learn and learn then how to save better and how to invest your resources better. So make savings your expenditure and don't save what is left after you have spent. Thank you.
All right, Albanas, then we can come to you, madam.
All right, thank you so much. And I think I just heard what Dr. has actually said, and I'm a strong believer of that statement that it's not how much that you earn, it's how much then you are saving or putting aside. And in this particular case, the reason we are having this behavior of someone putting some money this month, and next month what you have saved is saving you, is a really a culture we are seeing around. And therefore is for our young people to be able to have that discipline and a lifestyle of saving. Make it part of your lifestyle. Have a very clear plan and a reason why am I putting money aside. And that way then you are able to encourage that behavior of people who actually be able to put money aside, either long-term or short-term form of saving. Because it's very clear, even for our young people right now, is how I spend 1,000 shillings today is a similar way I'm going to spend 1,000,000 shillings tomorrow.
All right, thank you. Yes.
Thank you. Mine is when we looked at the challenges that we have gone through, how much money do we have so that you can be able to save? I would like to say that there is not enough money because what is enough for you may not be enough for me. So the concept is the discipline that we have. So once we exert the discipline in our lives, as far as the saving culture is concerned, we can be able to save. However, I think it's also good to come up with a budget so that you can be able to budget all your expenses, maybe from day 1 up to day 30th, so that you can know how much, roughly, how much money do you spend in the course of the month, believing that probably you may have a surplus. And if you don't have a surplus, to be able to tell whether you have any floating money that is not budgeted for. So that is the ideal position. What about when you are actually working hand to mouth? So what will happen? So the concept still remains because there is not enough money, there is no retro money. So you can be able to have a discipline that you'll be saving 50 shillings every day. So we can go back to the Karimo kind of savings. Now that Post Bank is no longer there, the Karimo is where you normally have that tin or the elephant from Coop Bank. You remember that? So there's the lowest kanda, where we are saying that you are earning about 500 shillings per day, you can be able to have a discipline that you'll be saving every single day when you get your money and put 50 shillings. So at the end of the month, you will at least have something. And make sure that the discipline will be able to carry you throughout the year, or maybe you can design that the saving pot that you are not going to break it in terms of the rainy season. You need to carry it with yourself and go to the post bank, and then they can open for you and tell you how much money that you have saved. So I'm thinking that if we go that direction, probably we can be able to increase the saving culture in our country and the awareness on the ground. So that particular individual who is earning 500 shillings would wonder, how do I save this? But if we go on the ground and we educate them and tell them, it doesn't matter how much you save, but the fact remains you have saved.
Thank you very much. Check. Am I on? Check. I'll just try and project for now. I don't know, Elizabeth, whether you have a comment on the same. Yes.
Oh, okay. I think I can add that, yes, savings are very good, and savings is the first part of separating yourself with your money and putting it and postponing your consumption today for the future. But once you have done that, you must invest. Because if you just put it aside in that Karimo, while it is a very good, you've postponed the consumption, what you have done is that you have put the money aside and it may lose value because of inflation. So you need to move to the next stage and actually start investing. And we do have solutions that are encouraging people to save together, pooled funds like the collective investment schemes, which are regulated by the Capital Markets Authority. They allow you to save as little as even 20 bob, 50 bob. So those 50 bobs, instead of the Karimo, I would say move to the next stage of pushing them to a manager who will give you a return. And of course, when it is away from you, it becomes a little bit harder for you to claw back. So the discipline must be there. Then the next thing is multiply that wealth, even if it is at a rate of 7-8%, it's still very good. And then the other thing, Mwangi, I think, is to dissuade ourselves from the fallacy that you can make money through gambling. We must tell our youth gambling is not the way to get rich. You must do it the hard way. It's denying yourself, it's saving. And those who win the gambling game, it's 1 in millions. So the whole thing of the advertisements that make many youth believe that they will gamble it and they will make it, I think that is one of the things we must demystify to our children, to our families, so that they can know it takes hard work to actually get better at investing and making wealth the most prudent way. Yeah.
Thank you for that. Catherine, I want to come to you. And we've seen that the conversation about pensions, because then we'll go to some of the other panelists who would chime into the pension. Sorry, I didn't mean Catherine, my apologies. I meant our HR expert here. They're both Catherine. Yes, sorry. Catherine Mwangi, my namesake at the end. Yeah, so I wanted to just, we've seen a lot of conversation being talked about pension. People are saying, you know what, I'm already doing whatever is being, those who are employed, whatever is being taken from the employer, through the employer rather. What are employers doing to ensure that they encourage, staff to still try and save beyond that? Because it seems there's a concern that we are staying in this comfort zone We have this comfort zone we are in where we feel we're already contributing through whatever deductions are made by my employer. What are employers, HR, doing to ensure that you can encourage this culture so that it doesn't feel like, it almost feels like it's part of tax. I don't have an option, but I have to, but I'm not seeing it as a real investment in my future.
Thank you. From a HR point of view, I would really like to take you back and say saving culture in our country, I think it should start from early age, when we are still young, so that we can be able to adapt the saving culture. I want to give an example before I answer your question and say that sometimes as parents we enjoy free labor. What do I mean by that? We will be able to go to the shamba and cultivate with our children, and at the end of the day, when we have harvested and we have taken our tea to KTD and we are paid, we just say, that was my children. After all, I have a responsibility to take care of the school fees and the needs and the like.
You feed them.
And you feed them and you feel that's it. I think we should look at it from another angle, where we need to appreciate our children to teach them how to save. When you have gotten your bonus, I think it's also good to share with them so that that culture will be cultivated at an early stage. And then allow them to save and follow it up. When your child have also gone to an extent of washing that car, remember that we are removing them from the norm of the apps and the social media and the TV and all that when we keep them busy. So when they realize that there will be a kickback, at least there will be something to appreciate them, they will be doing it willingly. And then after that, you'll do a follow-up of their savings. Now, from a HR point of view, we are saying that if you and I were taught to save from that early stage, trust you me, we will not be having problems in our HR as far as saving is concerned, because it will be automatic. I know how to save, I will continue. Now, when it comes to pension scheme, we all feel that we have been coerced to save. It's mandatory and you don't have a choice. But thank God for RBA, who normally walk around and teach us more on awareness on voluntary. And I can tell you for free, I'm actually a beneficiary when it comes to voluntary saving. So from a HR point of view, we need to have the personal financial management trainings, just like the way we are doing performance management system on board, so that they will be able to work together. You can have very good workers, yet they're earning money, but they don't know how to save. So it will still contribute to the national level of our saving culture to be low. So my take is this: let's continue teaching. Let's start from the ground. If you have not started, please start. Now, before I wind up, I would like to take a comparative between our fellow Asians and us Africans. So probably we can compare somebody from Central, and then we compare a nation. So when Asians are bringing up their children, they start developing them to become entrepreneurs as early stage. So people will be leaving school and they'll be going to work. So you are building that person slowly. So the culture of saving from that particular point, it will actually get to the system. And by the time they are doing their O-levels or KCSE, they actually know how to save. So you'll work with Asian children and they'll ask our children, how much do you have in the bank? And you are like, what? I don't work. But you see, the culture have already been inserted by the parents and the traditional. So we need to start it from that point, and then we build a generation that is going to become easy to manage even when they come at workplace. Thank you.
All right, Dr. Oko, maybe you could just chime in on what do we need to do to ensure, then we come to you, to ensure that we don't just see saving for pensions as almost like tax.
Thank you, and I think there are a lot of things we could do. First of all, let me say that our pension system is largely voluntary, built on 3 pillars on a World Bank model, where if you have nothing to live on and you have retired, you are a senior citizen, and because we want you to live a sort of a dignified life, we'll give you cash payment. That's the 2,000 that we give to our senior citizens. It can be means tested or it can be universal. So that is the first level. Then you go to the mandatory, and for our case, the mandatory pillar that we have is the National Social Security Fund. And you can imagine how much money we put into NSSF. I think until the recent legislative changes, which have not been fully implemented, I think as at now we contribute around 200 shillings for the employee and 200 shillings for the employer. And it doesn't matter how many years you have worked, even 40 years, you are not going to earn 500,000 from that kind of saving. And that is why we now go to the next pillar, and that is the supplementary pillar. And this is what the MC has asked about. This is a benefit your employer is giving you. To begin with, it is not in law that the employer gives you that benefit. But where the employer has given you that benefit, please take it. It's for your own good. And beyond that, we would actually really urge you to make additional voluntary contributions. If you look at the assets under management we have built over time, which is now standing at 1.548 trillion Kenya shillings, December 2021, it's been built by contributions of only 2 people out of 10. In other words, only 2 people are saving for their lives in retirement. These other 8 probably are waiting to receive those cash benefits from government, which is a budgetary item. And when there are pressing needs, like, for example, now, they will be the last people to be thought about in the hierarchy of needs for government. So that's why we urge that, of course, you contribute to what your employer has given you, and you contribute, and the employer also contributes, but over and above that, you can go forward and do additional voluntary contributions. And there are various savings mechanisms you can use to save for later life. You can use the independent pension plans. You can even use circles for that matter. In fact, we are moving into an arena where we think we need a bundled product because people have got different financial needs. So if you face shocks in your lifestyle, then there are different vehicles that can help you meet those shocks and preserve your savings for retirement. So indeed, there are vehicles to do that, but largely people are not making the right decisions. 21% are the people who are saving for retirement. That is from the workforce. We need to build that one up. And we encourage additional voluntary savings because on average, we have an income replacement rate of only 32%. That means if your income at the time you are retiring is 100 shillings, then when you are retired, you will only receive 32 shillings. So you can imagine what that one does. We aspire that we can grow that to 70%, what actually is recommended by international organizations.
Okay, Naomi, briefly.
Yeah, okay.
It's on.
I would like, I would like to comment because I think most of us in this room are in employment and we have like permanent and pensionable jobs. So for the regulators and the people in the industry, we have to think beyond that because work is becoming very precarious and many people are in the gig economy and the informal sector. And these people are really vulnerable to shocks and even more vulnerable in their retirement. So we need to think about how to start encouraging these people to save right from when they start earning an income. Yeah. And one innovative thing I have heard of late, someone had made a suggestion. I don't know how practical this is. We have a high mobile penetration in Kenya, and we all buy airtime. How about for every 100 bob we spend on airtime, or maybe most Kenyans buy maybe 50 bob? How about 2 bob goes towards your savings for pension? Yeah. What can the government do in terms of giving tax breaks or incentivizing people, especially the people in this informal sector, to save for retirement? I think we need to to think beyond those who are employed and think wider. Yeah, the people in the gig economy, the informal sector, and using tax breaks or government policy and looking at areas of consumption where we can tap into to encourage people to save. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. I want to just quickly, because we're running out of time, to come to Mohammed. And, excuse me, there are 2 points I want us to touch on. What I'll ask Mohammed, then we'll also have something on black tax, which I'll call Simon to just come and address. Because black tax sometimes leaves you in a moral dilemma. Do I take care of my family or do I take care of myself? We are told, think of yourself, but you think, me, I'm eating mincemeat and my dad in the village hardly has anything. So we'll ask, Simon will come and talk about that. But Mohammed, when you talk about, you hear all this sound well and good, but you know the state of the economy, as you've already, explained to us. And we are getting deeper into that election season. We are less than 2 months to election. So we are really in that place where you find investors are already, investment is slowing down, spending is slowing down, etc. Then we are seeing, and we hope it doesn't get to us in terms of the COVID wave, which, the Africa CDC said we have gotten into. Is our economy at a place where we can manage both if it was to hit us? Such that, we already have the election jitters in terms of spending, and we are seeing some sort of resurgence of COVID. What is your assessment of where our economy is? Because this inadvertently will affect even our income, especially for those who may not be employed, for instance, who will end up having little or no income, and we still want them to save.
Yeah, so I imagine what you're basically asking is where are we
yes.
ahead of those swings,
yes,
as you put it. Generally, when you look at the Kenyan economy, the most encouraging thing, and sometimes as economists we overuse that word, is resilience. And the resilience is a factor of the diversification of the economy. So if you to look at the economy over the last 10 years, it's really evolved from heavy reliance on agricultural-led contribution to GDP, and that's really come down to about 20%. So service sector is about now 53, almost 55%. And when I talked about the numbers, you could see the swing in 2021 was really, to a large extent, driven by that. So as we're getting into the elections, the sectors that we think are likely to be affected is, accommodation, for instance, because of jitters around that, especially on the tourism side. Wholesale trade, we do expect, given the fact that disposable incomes are really coming under a lot of pressure. But as you look out 5 years, where we are, I think a lot has to do with the government that will come into place in the next 2-3 months, and what sort of fiscal policies they have. We will need a more level-headed view in terms of our expenditures, because when you look at our budgets, our fiscal deficits are now closing in on about 1 trillion shillings. We've come over the last probably 10 years from 200 billion in terms of fiscal deficits. We've basically gone up about 5 times. And basically what that tells you that if we are to continue with that trend, we have to increase taxes to rein in on the deficit and to pay our debt. So we are likely to get into the next cycle of, say, 3 years or 5 years where taxes are likely to go up. We're already in an IMF program, and there are particular conditions that put across. We've already gone through to about 2 or 3 sessions with them. We've come through successfully, but you can see even the discussions around the fuel subsidy. A lot of that is coming from these international players who are basically telling us, look, some of the decisions you're making are not very sustainable from a fiscal perspective. So I think we will have to probably belt up because the international situation, especially in terms of what's happening internationally, is likely to be with us for slightly longer. Election will just be an event in about 2 months. But the impact from the global situation is likely to be with us for a bit longer. And that basically means that we are likely to get into a fairly challenging time. So the long and short is basically we need to change our fiscal policy. We need to address our expenditure levels. It's painful sometimes to try cut back on recurrent expenditure because you're affecting people's lives. But we are getting close to levels where managing the fiscal situations become very, very challenging. We are not off the cliff yet, but generally speaking, I think we, as a government, when you look at the policies they're putting across, I think they are, looking at that particular situation and trying to make the right calls as far as that is concerned. In terms of really the saving side, generally as a country, I don't think we're doing very well. When you look at, some of the other countries that are saving much higher, and that by implication means that our cost of debt is much higher because we really don't have enough resources internally really to support our expenditure. And I think the discussion you're having today is really at the core of really that economic discussion at that really macro level.
Thank you very much. speak on just on the black tax element. I know it's something you're quite passionate on. If you could just maybe stand so that we can all see you as well as those who are streaming.
Yeah, so thank you, Dan, again, and wonderful conversations happening. Thank you for your patience. I think we should be almost. I just wanted to make a few remarks. Number one, money flows where there is vision and purpose. Where there is no money vision in a family, money perishes. Because money must answer to reasons why you are receiving it. But also money likes to stay where there is peace. Money is like a spouse. But money grows where it is appreciated. That is an ecosystem of trust, which is three things: competency, credibility, and character. Whenever those things lack in any money relationship, money will look for another partner and go. I therefore submit the following: that we need, when you are doing next time a Chama meeting, how about you carry along your daughter? So that they also understand that this is how it works. We should not make an assumption that they are too young to learn about money. Number two, I think it would be too dangerous to outsource the responsibility of learning and teaching money matters to teachers, because they may not do that. It's still a parenting responsibility. And when we don't do that, at retirement, what will they do? They will go bring kids, grandchildren, stay with you in the house, and ask you to pay their school fees into your meager income as a pensioner at retirement. Now, the last thing I want to talk about is black tax. Stay within your budget. Don't fall into the emotional manipulation trap and feel guilty for having not helped. Once you have put maybe 20% of your income towards support of the family members, and that line of budget has been exhausted, allow your family members to also experience God's faithfulness. Do not attempt to take the place of God in people's lives. This is important. And maybe I didn't plan to do that. My daughter is on vacation. I came with her so that she can also see how these things work. Faith, if you may stand. Imani? Yeah. So when we take money to the house, they have to understand that it was earned. It didn't fall from trees. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Simon, for that. Yes, money may be made from paper, but does not fall from trees. At this point, I'd just like a quick round of, if there's anyone who has any question, we'll just take one round of questions. And so in case you have one, just raise your hand and we'll have a microphone. Yes, we have two here.
Thank you very much. I think my question is more on, one of my questions is more on the pension. And the government, I don't think the government is doing enough to encourage people to join pension. And the reason I say this is because you're taxed when your employer and yourself contribute towards your pension. And then when at the point of retirement, then before you're given your lump sum, that money again is taxed. So people find other ways of actually going and investing elsewhere. Then the second one was the issue of encouraging the youth in terms of savings. I think a lot needs to be done in terms of helping them manage their budget. If they're earning within, say, 50,000 shillings, where should they be staying? They should not be staying in Kilimani where rent is 40,000, then they're only left with 10,000. Those are the kind of things that I think the panel needs to take into consideration. Thank you.
All right, we'll just take them, we'll lump them together, then we can.
Thank you very much, and thank you Enwealth team for arranging this session. It's very educative, and I looked at the research that was done about savings and investment, and I wondered if at all we added risk, and because it could have made more meaning, especially if there was risk, because some people fail to invest because of risk. So if that has been done before, then if it can be shared, it will be good so that we can educate our other members within our entities. Then the other thing I heard when the panelists talked about financial literacy. This is very important, and it lacks a lot in Kenya. I'll speak about Kenya because I belong here, and I don't know. Is this a strategy? I saw somebody from RBA. Is this a strategy from the government? Maybe they don't want to be challenged when people become more aware about investing. You know, if you look at even what's happening now, we are in like electioneering period. You see a lot about bottom up. People are talking a lot about a lot of people who are down, isn't it? From all avenues. And how I wished these people would be helped more to become more aware about savings in those parameters. I liked what Madam talked about here when they had a forum with the border people. So we need to have such in all sectors and educate them on what to do. Even those selling sukuma or even the youth. Even the youth do have some merry-go-round at that level. And then the last thing is I looked at this research strategically and I asked myself, have another research been done on where we overspend? Have another research been done where we overspend? Probably if we look at it from that angle, we might come up with strategies to promote savings and investment. Thank you.
Thank you very much for that.
Thank you so much for the chance, and thank you for the good presentation and good responses from the panelists. I'm just touching on the survey that has been done. I'm very impressed by the data that I've seen being used here, because it is they are drawn from the very correct sources, KNBS, CBK, and that. But then it is also, we also need to be a bit cautious. When I saw a sample size of 813 questionnaires being sent out and only 44 came back, that's quite small. Then you break it down, you look at levels of estimation and you break it down, then that means the numbers are actually getting smaller and smaller. It is actually very, very important for us that as we are getting into such kind of studies, we need to have well-designed studies with reasonable sample sizes, because, you know, we are moving from data to information and then to knowledge, which then leads to wisdom. And so, if it is not very representative, we have an issue. And I think I felt it was necessary for me to comment on that, because then what goes out there in the public should be well researched and well presented. The presentation was okay. I only have a problem with the design.
All right.
Yeah. So then my question on that is policies. There are a number of policies, policy issues that have been done from here, and from Enwealth side, which is more of private. How do you take this to the government for implementation? Now, I'm talking of that from the point of being the Director General of Kenya National Bureau of Statistics, and so when it comes to matters of statistics, and especially sampling, which is my area, then I get concerned of that process that I've talked about. But I'm very much impressed, Mohammed, by touching on the GDP, touching on the CPI, and I realize that using a lot of statistics, please keep on visiting the KNBS website. There's a lot of information that we are generating from there. Yeah. Otherwise, I'm not here as from the side of KNBS, but I'm representing Hazina Sacco. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much. That is MacDonald George, who is the Director General of the Kenya National Bureau of Statistics. So we'll just stop the questions there, then we'll just have some quick responses, and allow me to direct them to specific points, and I'd request that we be brief on the same. There was one which was going to Daktari from the regulator, from RBA, Dr. Uko. There was the double taxation concern. There was the double taxation concern, as well as is government, comfortable with people not being financially literate?
Thank you very much. Maybe I'll start with the latter, the question you have asked last. I think we need a knowledgeable society. And I think when we have a knowledgeable society, I think the government should be sufficiently challenged to be able to make the right policies. So there should be no fear on people having the right information and that they can ask them the relevant questions. Encouraging pensions. We do this a lot, and we don't do this only on our own. We do it with all of our stakeholders. We've trained people on the need to save for retirement. And if you look at some of the outputs that we host in our website, you would note that the level of awareness to save, particularly for retirement, is very high as 83%. But where the rubber meets the road, when people are now required to make conscious decisions and then save for retirement, we only have 21% of them making that decision. And savings is a good thing, and vehicles have been provided for saving. This has made us think that we probably, and if you understand human behavior, and if you listen carefully to what the CEO of Enwealth was saying, education is out there. But I think let us also not leave it only to teachers. Let that education start right at home from the parenting. We are toying with an idea right now, probably at a different level, that we need to move away from a voluntary pensions arrangement. We have preached the gospel on the need to save for retirement for a long time, and the fruits we are bearing are very little. We know we have a mandatory savings mechanism in NSSF, but that may not be enough. So we probably should take it a level higher and make right savings decisions for particularly our workers, and make it compulsory. That when you become of age at 18, with your knowledge or without your knowledge, we automatically enroll you into a pension arrangement, and you start saving for your life in retirement. Or we can maybe ameliorate that and say when you get your first job, you are automatically in a pension scheme, whether you have made that decision or it has been made for you by government. So yes, I think we need to move towards that direction. There was another question on. I think the data issue is pertinent. I think the sampling, we need to work on that. If you look at a study that is regularly done, I think every 2 years, under the offices of the Kenya National Bureau of Statistics, the central bank, and they have also brought in other regulators, the fin access surveys. if you look at the last fin access survey and you manipulate or analyze that data to get information and knowledge, you will realize that other than the macro data, what macro data is saying here, at that level, our people working in the informal sector are amongst the highest savers globally. And that data speaks very loudly. So people are already willing to save, and they are saving. But where are they putting that money into? So we just need to trickle it and make sure that they're sending those savings to the right vehicles which can work for them. On the question of double taxation, I think we don't have double taxation. I think it is the perception. The pension system we have for, the taxation system we have in the pension sector is that when you are sending in your contributions as an employee, and the contributions that your employer also send to your pension account, it comes in tax-free. When that money is invested, the income it generates is not taxed. But when you have retired, and let's assume you have retired at 60 and you start receiving your benefits, then it attracts taxation. But there are certain graduation on levels of taxation. The first 600 is not taxed, the next 400, so it's graduated. But when you hit age 65, you actually receive your pension payments tax-free. It used to be the same when you're receiving the pension, that is the regular payments, mostly on a monthly basis. But at 65 also, when you had hit it and you are in a provident fund and you're receiving your lump sum payment, it was also supposed to be tax-free. That change came when the tax income was being reviewed. And so if you receive your lump sum at 65 currently, it's being taxed. We noted that when there was that amendment in the tax law, and we thought it was a mistake. And we made a lot of noise as the regulator and of course stakeholders as well. And we wrote various letters to the policymaker and said, I think there's an error here. They said there's no error here. It was intentional. And so we have made yet a proposal and asked, and we think it may see the light of day, that at age 65, whether you receive your lump sum or pension, it should be tax-free. So really there's no double taxation, and we encourage workers to save because there are lots of tax benefits that you enjoy. When you contribute, there's no tax. The income it generates is not taxed. At the payout phase, that is where it is taxed.
Right.
And there's a chance that you could avoid it if you can persevere for the next 5 years, if you retired at 60, so that you get it tax-free. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And so I'll just have two more responses. I'll have Naomi respond to some of those on the report. There were a few. Has there been any input on risk? Has there been a different report on where we overspend? And then in terms of the sample size that has been brought forward by the KNBS boss.
Okay, thank you very much. No, we have not done any research on risk. In fact, that's a good idea. We could see how to design a study on risk. Regarding overspending, yes, we did. One of the reports was the trends of expenditure, but this was among the retirees. Yeah, we had asked the retirees, how you spending money after retirement? And I think Bansi alluded to it when she was saying the biggest expense was medical, and that is what has led to this product they have, the Anaya medical plan. Yeah. Then the size, I agree. Our main research population was the customers in Enwealth. So this study is not representative of the population. I agree, but it can tell us something. Maybe you should put that caveat that the report is not representative of the whole Kenyan population, but it's an indicator of something. And maybe the gentleman from KNBS, maybe we can see how we can cooperate and see how to do bigger researches that are better designed. But given the access we have, yeah, that this was the best we could do.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you for that. I'd like to ask Simon to just come and touch on, I'll hand you the mic, to just come and touch on the aspect of when you're speaking to government in terms of policy.
So just to respond to that, the first research was to do about governance remuneration. We shared this with the RBA. The outcome of that influence in terms of policies, we now have remuneration guidelines. So it's working. There was also the issue of retirement well-being and the concern of healthcare. This was part of the input in terms of industry, design of healthcare, post-retirement medical funds. So though not everything has been taken, but some of this information, we have used it for training content. Also, Enwealth product designs and innovation that helps our clients to plan better their future. Thank you.
Thank you very much. In the interest of time, I beg for us to close that at that point because we are far beyond our time, and I really apologize for that, but nonetheless, it has not denied us of wholesome conversations. Thank you very much to Catherine Mwangi, who's a council member of the IHRM, as well as your namesake Catherine Karemi, who is the CEO of APL Life Assurance Company. We also have Mohammed Khalid, who's the Senior Investment Manager at Gen Africa Asset Managers. Thank you as well. We have Dr. Shem Omar, Chief Manager and Head of Research and Strategy at the Retirement Benefits Authority. Albanas Mudoka, the Manager, Pension Administration and Consulting at Enwealth Financial Services. We also have Naomi Memwangi, who's a lecturer at Strathmore University and has been very instrumental in this research. And last but not least is Elizabeth Irongo, who is the General Manager, Business Development and Client Relations at ICEA Lion Asset Management. Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen, for your valuable input. I will now allow you to take your seats, and I would now like to call Cynthia Kuyebi to come and pick it up. And once again, thank you for your patience, ladies and gentlemen. We really appreciate it.
Good morning. Good morning once again. Say high five to your person next to you. How many of us are seated with our colleagues in the office? Just raise your hand. If you're seated with your colleagues next to the office, let me see, by show of hands, that table, this table, any other table. So the reason why you put the tags is that you need to interact. Whereby you sit with the person next to you is probably in the hospitality sector, banking sector, so that by the time you leave here, you've gotten to know 1 or 2 or 3 individuals. Ama namna gani? Okay, so I would like to invite you to our 5th annual trustee forum that will be held on 19th to 22nd July 2022. The venue will be in Mombasa, Sarova White Sands Beach Resort and Spa. How many of us want to unwind, enjoy from the busy schedule? I already see one client here, Bansi, who has raised their hand. Any other? Let me see. How many of us would want? So I'd really be happy to host you for that event. Please extend the invite to your colleagues in the office, the other trustees. And the payment will only be 45,000 exclusive of VAT. Only for 4 days. Isn't it a good pricing? Eh? Isn't it a good pricing? Our delegates, it is. So we hope to see you all there. The room will be able to hold a maximum of even 300 people. So we hope to see all of you and also your trustees who didn't manage to come. And you can RSVP already there to confirm attendance. Please go to our website and we'll be happy to give you all the necessary documents and look forward to hosting you on that event. Thank you very much. I'll allow the MC to continue. Asante.
Thank you very much. I'm sure many of you just had the unwind part, but remember there's a conference also. There's going to be those invaluable conversations. I want to call Japheth Otieno to come and deliver a vote of thanks on behalf of Enwealth.
Thank you very much. Allow me to stand here. I'm blessed with the height, and I think standing here will be much considerate. I am a jovial man as I stand here, and the reason being is we really appreciate all of you for giving us an opportunity to have a conversation, to host you today, and to do what we do best as Enwealth, enabling wealth. That's what we do on a daily basis. The biggest tool we have as Enwealth to do that is knowledge dissemination. And we do confirm that we are putting in even much more. Barnes has just confirmed that. So knowledge dissemination becomes the biggest tool we are using to ensure that wealth creation becomes a reality to all the people we interact with. The smiles I'm seeing on all of us is just a confirmation of my hypothesis that I do have, that at least 1 out of 1 Kenyan likes talking about money. So this is just to confirm that. So we are really grateful, and ladies and gentlemen, I must admit that I don't have commensurate words to express the gratitude we have for having given us an opportunity. Nevertheless, if I may just use my limited words, one is to say thank you to God Almighty, the Father of our Lord Jesus Christ, for granting us an opportunity and enabling us in terms of life. The resources that have gone into this, both human resource, the brains that have gone into this, the material thing, it's an enablement of the Lord, and we do acknowledge that as a company, and so we really thank Him. Our board, for nodding that we proceed with this and committing the company resources, the company staff, the human resource to come and do this. Chair, if you may look at me, we say thank you. This is a nodding from the board. We wouldn't have done it monthly if they didn't approve it. And so we really thank you. Our partners, the regulator, Strathmore University, all the speakers who've sat here and disseminated the knowledge as enabled. We really appreciate our clients who are here. We really appreciate all of you. It was great having all of us here. For sponsoring, for talking, for preparing the presentation, for helping with the research and putting the data together. Ladies and gentlemen, we really appreciate all of you. For the attendees, whether you are a client or not, please know from the depth of our heart as Enwealth Financial Services is we say thank you very much. Ladies and gentlemen, it will be mean of me if I fail to mention myself and where I work. There is a team that worked together to bring all this. And my generosity allows me to give them an opportunity to stand where they are. If you are a team from Enwealth Financial Services, with the instruction of our MD, the coordination by Bansi, all of us can just stand where you are. We want to acknowledge you. It's a special opportunity. I can as well withdraw it now. So this is the team that has put together the brains, putting together the data collection. Thank you very much, team. I love you so much. I will have bought you breakfast, but I'm going to save that money. Dan, when you announced that there is breakfast, there's somebody in that corner who said, yes, they were really celebrating. And so that one, ladies and gentlemen, confirms that we owe a thank you note to Radisson Blue. Thank you very much. If you are representatives here for hosting us, it was great. Mumejibamba, ama namna gani? The breakfast was great, very healthy. The ambience around here is so great. And so we really appreciate the team from Radisson Blue for giving us an opportunity to breathe your oxygen contained within here, and for giving us the food that we have enjoyed and the seats. Thank you very much, and we look forward to much more partnership. I want to dramatize this, Dan. We all drank maziwa ya Nyayo, na ni vizuri tutumie hiyo nguvu tulipata. So to dramatize the thank you, I want us to do the Nyayo style. We warm up our hands, ladies and gentlemen, to appreciate all of us. You can warm them up, make them much warmer. Chemsha mkono, chemsha mkono, chemsha mkono. Moja, mbili, tatu, funga. God bless you. May the Lord be with you. Mungu awabariki sana.
Let's appreciate Japheth. Japheth, I have an idea of what you do on Sundays. And I don't think I'm the only one from the laughter. It came from your articulation, your body language, your terminology. And you keep pulling your coat up a kidogo hivi. By their fruits, you know them. And by their suits, you know them. Once again, thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen, for your invaluable time, for being part of this. Once again, like I said, the report is going to be sent to you on email. That is, whether you got it through the code or not. Aside from that, I'll ask our panelists if you could kindly just remain behind once we've released everyone else, just for some quick interviews from the media team. We'd really appreciate your time and input as well. And I will now call Gift Mbeja to come and do a closing prayer for us. We'll see, he also has a suit. By their suit, you know them.
Thank you, the MC. Good morning, trustees and all attendees. My name is Gift Oscar. At this juncture, I want to request us to be upstanding, even as we conclude this session with a word of prayer. Father, we thank you and we honor you this morning, Lord. We started and we asked of your grace and your wisdom and knowledge, and indeed your faithfulness having endured. And so, Lord, even as we close up this session, we just want to say thank you. As we depart from this place, Lord, each and every one of us, we pray for your grace and your blessings. Above all, I pray that let each and every item, every point, every issue that have been raised in this place, Lord, it shall not just end here, but Lord, King of Glory, we shall carry it out, King of Glory, to implement it, that it may be useful to us and those the portfolios that we manage as trustees, as service providers, Lord, and even in the capacity of the nation. We honor you and we exalt you. For the rest of the day, we commit it into your hands, Lord, that your blessings shall accompany us. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Gift, and thank you all. We encourage you to exchange your contacts, get to know someone, and network as you are allowed to live at your own pleasure. Thank you once again.
Wacha tuanze na moja alafu tuende hapo mwingine. Bado urudi huko tena.